Now on the APEC VIP hotline, cutting-edge training for the serious athlete, apecgo.com. The results show when the athletes hit the field. With us right now from purplemenace.com, Trey Fallon, the columnist there. How you doing, Trey?
I'm great. How you doing?
Doing very well. Thanks for coming on with us. I want to talk to you about the return of Casey Pahal to the TCU football program. When he left TCU, did you expect him to ever be back?
I was kind of, torn on it. I did think he would be back. Coach Patterson, when it all went down, did say, that TCU would leave the door open for him to return as long as he took care, of all his business that they wanted him to do with the rehab and all that. I thought that he would be back, but, I wasn't, real secure with that thought. But, I did think he would be back, and, I'm definitely glad he is back.
Why is that?
I think he gives TCU the best chance to win, and I don't say that to put down Trayvon Boykin, but Pahal has the better arm, more accurate, and to me, he just has the skills that you need from a quarterback in the Big 12. I like what Boykin brings. I think he could eventually be a solid quarterback for TCU, but right now, with everything, with the type of receivers and the offense in place right now, I believe Pahal gives the Frogs the best chance to achieve their goals for what they want to do in 2013.
TCU was 4-0 when Pahal left the team. The question, I guess, for those who might be skeptical, who aren't as forgiving, would say, can you trust him? Because when he left, it really hurt that football team, and they ended up going 3-6 the rest of the way. Fortunately, they were able to win enough ball games to get into a bowl game, but he let the team down, just bluntly. Do you trust him to make amends?
That's one thing that I'm interested to see in his return. I mean, the biggest things for me are physical. How is he going to look? Is he rusty throwing? How's timing going to be? Obviously, they have time to work on that. But yeah, the other thing is, can he regain the trust of his teammates? Because, you need your quarterback to be a leader for your team. So that's something I'm definitely going to watch. From everything kind of that I've read and seen so far. There's not really too many bad feelings between the players and Pahal. So I think he will be able to regain their trust, but it's going to be a process.
And it's also going to be a delicate process, too, because I'm sure there are people on Boykin's side who think that, after going through what he went through this past season and having to go through the growing pains of being a starting quarterback, kind of getting thrown in, head first, ready or not, there are going to be people who side with him and say that he deserves a chance to go in and be the starting quarterback next year. So are you risking a split locker room by bringing him back?
I think, to me, Casey coming back, he's obviously going to have to work and, earn his starting quarterback position back. So I think if you see, if the players see him, working out in this winter and practice, the spring practice and in the fall next season, the players, I think, will welcome him back in and follow him and be supportive of him as long as he shows that he does have a commitment to the team and is willing to go out and work. And I also think you will see Trayvon Boykin some this season. Obviously, not as much as we saw him in the starting role, but I don't think his role is done for. I do believe he will still get snaps at quarterback in 2013. So he'll still get some playing time. He's not being completely benched, but like I said, as long as Pahal comes out and shows that he is committed and willing to work to get his spot back, I think the players, will side with him and ride with him.
How protective do you think Gary Patterson's going to be of Pahal? Is he going to let him speak to the media anytime soon, or is he going to be just kind of off limits for quite a while?
I expect him to be off limits for quite a while. A few things that I've seen from Patterson so far say they kind of want him to just be a student right now. They're not going to have a press conference to announce that he's back or anything like that. So right now, I think you're going to see TCU be very protective of him And, I don't know when we might hear from him for the first time. I mean, this past year they had him at Big 12 Media Days. I don't know, really if that's the best way to do it again this year or how they're going to handle it. But for right now, yes, I would expect not much from Casey, Paul Hall, or TCU on the situation.
And as far as support for Casey, beyond obviously just the being in a structured environment at TCU with the athletic department and going to class and so forth, what about support as far as dealing with his alcohol issues and his drug issues?
He's still finishing up. He finished up the inpatient part of his rehab. He's still doing some outpatient stuff, still attending meetings. He will have a sponsor and things like that. So all of his work with the rehab is not completely done. He's still, going through that process, but he has done enough to show Coach Patterson and, everybody else involved with TCU, met with campus life at TCU, met with, athletic director Chris Del Conte. Everybody, is pleased with the progress and the things that he's done to this point, but he's still, that rehab and getting over those problems is not finished. Those will, continue as we go along.
How many more ball games do you think TCU would have won last year had Paul Hall been the starting quarterback for the whole season?
Personally, I think they win the Iowa State game, which was the first game that Paul Hall missed. The Thursday before that game is when everything came out. So I believe TCU wins that one, and I think they beat Texas Tech, the triple overtime game. They lost by 3 points. So I think they do win 2 more games if Casey is there. But it's hard to say because if you go back and look, TCU was 4-0 while they had Casey, but he wasn't playing as well as I think a lot of TCU people expected. So it's hard to say, for sure if they do win those 2 games. But for sure, I think they win the Iowa State game and most likely Texas Tech.
Okay, and then also there was some other big news that came down for TCU today or yesterday. Defensive end Stanley Mapanga declaring for the NFL draft. Was that a surprise?
Very big surprise. I mean, I know he had been considering it, but I didn't think he would go through with it. To me, I like Mapanga a lot. This season wasn't one of his best. He, battled with injuries and things like that, so he wasn't completely healthy. I thought he would want to come back for his senior season to kind of improve his draft stock. And, I mean, he's undersized, so I don't see him really playing defensive end in the NFL. I think he'll be a more outside linebacker type guy. So, yeah, it surprised me a lot. I mean, it's definitely a big hit for the defense.
Okay. Hey, we appreciate you coming on, Trey, giving us an update on what's going on. We're going to be excited to see what happens as we get into spring practice. When's that supposed to start, by the way?
They'll get started in I think late March. They haven't set a date yet, but usually in March-ish, so it's not too far away.
And how's the recruiting looking so far?
I mean, it's good. This past TCU season has been, I just describe it as a roller coaster because there's been so many ups and downs, and it seems like they continue right now because, outside of Mapanga, TCU's also losing Josh Boyce to the draft, wide receiver Josh Boyce. But, they've got some recent commits. Temple quarterback Zach Allen, he enrolled early, so he just started school yesterday. And they picked up a JUCO offensive lineman, Lloyd Tunstall, and also flipped Cameron Eccles-Looper from, he decommitted from A&M and signed with the Frogs. So there's been a lot of positives and a lot of negatives here in the last 72 hours. So it's kind of crazy, but yeah, the commits are looking good. They did lose a big one though. Linebacker AJ Hilliard just decommitted. He was already at TCU. He left TCU and is now down at Texas A&M. So that was a big loss for the Frogs also. So it's up and down. It's crazy.
A lot of movement right now, huh?
Yes, there is.
All right. Well, hey, Trey, I know it'll keep you busy then trying to follow it all, but we do appreciate you giving us some time today. Thanks for coming on the show. And again, people need to check out purplemenace.com. It's one of the Rivals websites, correct?
Correct. Yeah, check us out. We'll have all the Horned Frog news you'll need.
Perfect. I appreciate it. Trey, thanks very much for coming on today. We appreciate it.
No problem anytime. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Trey Fallon from purplemenace.com on Bryan Houston Sports Radio Live on 99.3 Talk FM.